With the 2024-25 season entering its final 4 games, those hoping to grab a European spot are jostling for position behind the division leaders. Bundesliga.com assesses the chances of all concerned, as the likes of Borussia Dortmund, RB Leipzig and Eintracht Frankfurt plot a course for the continent next season. Bayern Munich guaranteed themselves a top 4 finish and therefore UEFA Champions League qualification on Matchday 27. Bayer Leverkusen followed suit 2 rounds later. It means there are still 2 spots up for grabs in the Champions League. As it stands, 5th place will go into the UEFA Europa League and 6th into the UEFA Conference League playoffs. Any extra qualifier berth will depend on the outcome of the DFB Cup final between VfB Stuttgart and Arminia Bielefeld, and the former's finish position in the Bundesliga if they lift the cup. How does European qualification work? Eintracht Frankfurt. Position: 3rd. Points: 52, 30 games. Goals: 58 to 42, plus 16. Last 5 results: drew 0-0 versus Augsburg. 1-3-0 versus Heidenheim. Lost 2-0 versus Werder Bremen. 1-1-0 versus Stuttgart. 1-3-1 versus Bochum. Remaining 4 matches: RB Leipzig, H, Mainz, A, St. Pauli, H, Freiburg, A. Despite their form dipping up and down, it is still set to be a fine season for Dino Topmoller's men. The Eagles have shown they have the strength as a unit to compensate for the loss of top scorer Omar Marmoush in the January transfer window and mount a serious bid for the top 4, starting the new year with 6 matches unbeaten. Hugo Ekitike has been a dazzling forward presence, with 14 goals for the campaign, and will be key to the club's top 4 ambitions as they take on 3 teams also jostling for Europe in the final 4 match days. Eintracht cannot yet secure a top 5 finish on matchday 31. RB Leipzig. Position: 4th. Points: 49, 30 games. Goals: 48 to 38, plus 10. Last 5 results: drew 1-1 versus Holstein Kiel. 1-3-2 versus Wolfsburg. 1-3-1 versus Hoffenheim. Lost 1-0 versus Borussia Mönchengladbach. 1-2-0 versus Borussia Dortmund. Remaining 4 matches: Eintracht Frankfurt, A, Bayern Munich, H, Werder Bremen, A, VfB Stuttgart, H. A mainstay of the UEFA Champions League places since the 2017-18 season, Leipzig certainly lived up to their high standards at the start of the season. However, an extensive injury list which included a long-term layoff for star playmaker Xavi Simons sent them on a bit of a downward spiral. Die Roten Bullen do now have Xavi back from injury and, with new head coach Zalt Low in charge until the end of the season after the dismissal of Marco Rose at the start of April, they are now looking at making a renewed push to once again land in the top 4 at the end of May, but have a tricky run-in. Leipzig cannot yet secure European qualification on matchday 31. Freiburg. Position: 5th. Points: 48, 30 games. Goals: 43 to 47, minus 4. Last 5 results: 1-3-2 versus Hoffenheim. 1-2-1 versus Borussia Mönchengladbach. Lost 4-1 versus Borussia Dortmund. Lost 2-1 versus Union Berlin. Drew 2-2 versus Mainz. Remaining 4 matches: Wolfsburg, A, Bayer Leverkusen, H, Holstein Kiel, A, Eintracht Frankfurt, H. Uncertainty was the overwhelming feeling in the Black Forest before the start of the season as Julian Schuster stepped into the sizable coaching boots left by Christian Streich and his record-breaking time in charge. Freiburg have looked every bit the same quietly effective outfit under the new boss, however. Results have been up and down all season, but a 7-match unbeaten run since the start of February lifted Freiburg up the standings. With Vincenzo Grifo continuing to be a dependable creative force and an experienced side, European qualification could well be on the cards again, especially a home fixture against fellow challengers Frankfurt on the final day. Mainz. Position: 6th. Points: 47, 30 games. Goals: 48-36, +12. Last 5 results: drew 2-2 versus Wolfsburg. Lost 2-0 versus Hoffenheim, drew 1-1 versus Holstein Kiel. Lost 3-1 versus Borussia Dortmund. Drew 2-2 versus Freiburg. Remaining 4 matches: Bayern Munich, A. Eintracht Frankfurt, H. Bochum, A. Bayer Leverkusen, H. Mainz have upset the traditional domestic order to play in Europe before, doing so under the tutelage of Thomas Tuchel. Bo Henriksen is the latest man making waves in the Mainz hot seat, and what a season they are enjoying under the Dane. Wins against Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich have formed part of a 10-match unbeaten home run that puts Mainz firmly in contention for European qualification. If Germany striker Jonathan Burkardt, 15 goals, can stay fit and healthy, the 05ers have a good chance of clinching a continental spot in the last 4 matches of the season, which includes a home encounter with top 4 rivals Frankfurt, but also the top 2 of Bayern and Leverkusen. Borussia Dortmund. Position 7th. Points 45, 30 games. Goals 57-47, +10. Last 5 results: 1-3-2 versus Borussia Mönchengladbach. Drew 2-2 versus Bayern Munich. 1-4-1 versus Freiburg. 1-3-1 versus Mainz. Lost 2-0 versus Leipzig. Remaining 4 matches: Hoffenheim, A. Wolfsburg, H. Bayer Leverkusen, A. Holstein Kiel, H. Dortmund had looked largely untouchable at home under Nuri Sahin, but away struggles, with just 1 win in their first 9 on the road, largely led to his departure in January. New boss Niko Kovac has been aiming to put things right so that last season's Champions League finalists can enter European competition in some shape or form next term. With Serhou Guirassy continually serving up goals, the Black and Yellows, who have claimed confidence-boosting results against Bayern and Barcelona of late, certainly have the quality to rise up the table and end the season strongly. They are now only 4 points outside the top 4 with mostly favorable fixtures left. Werder Bremen. Position 8th. Points 45, 30 games. Goals 48-54, -6. Last 5 results: 1-1-0 versus Bochum. 1-2-1 versus VfB Stuttgart. 1-2-0 versus Eintracht Frankfurt. 1-3-0 versus Holstein Kiel. Lost 4-2 versus Borussia Mönchengladbach. Remaining 4 matches: St. Pauli, H. Union Berlin, A. RB Leipzig, H. Heidenheim, A. Ole Werner's side have struggled for consistency over the course of the 2024-25 campaign, but time and again, they have shown that they can compete with the very best on their day. A run of 4 consecutive league defeats between February and March left them plummeting down the league. However, a shock victory on Matchday 25 away at champions Leverkusen has lifted Werder to taking 5 wins from their last 6. With Marvin Duksch leading the line in front of an exciting midfield and Oliver Burke currently on song, if Bremen can stay consistent in the closing weeks of the season, there is every reason to believe they could creep into the European places for the first time in 15 years. Borussia Mönchengladbach. Position 9th. Points 44, 30 games. Goals 48-46, +2. Last 5 results: lost 3-2 versus Borussia Dortmund. Lost 2-1 versus Freiburg. Drew 1-1 versus St. Pauli. 1-1-0 versus RB Leipzig. 1-4-2 versus Werder Bremen. Remaining 4 matches: Holstein Kiel, A. Hoffenheim, H. Bayern Munich, A. Wolfsburg, H. The Foles came worryingly close to a relegation playoff at the end of 2023-24 but, thanks in large part to the arrival of super striker Tim Kleindienst, Gerardo Schoen's side look far better equipped for a European push this time around. They have nobody to fear when it comes to clocking enough points over the remainder of the campaign, including a trip to Munich, but inconsistency has held them back at times this season and leaves them with ground to make up. Augsburg. Position 10th. Points, 43, 30 games. Goals, 33 to 40, -7. Last 5 results: drew 0-0 versus Eintracht Frankfurt. 1-2-1 versus Bochum. Lost 3-1 versus Bayern Munich. Drew 1-1 versus Hoffenheim. 1-1-0 versus Wolfsburg. Remaining 4 matches: Bayer Leverkusen, A. Holstein Kiel, H. VfB Stuttgart, A. Union Berlin, H. Augsburg. Were not everyone's tip for European qualification at the start of the season, having last finished a campaign in the top half back in 2014-15, then finishing 5th and earning the Europa League place. 3 defeats in their opening 5 matches did not augur too well, but Jess Thorup has steadied the ship admirably, going on an 11-game unbeaten run from the middle of January until defeat against Bayern on Matchday 28 brought the Fuggerstotter back down to earth. Van Dalen has particularly impressed since the season's restart, keeping 8 clean sheets and only having to pick the ball out his net 3 times during Augsburg's admirable run. That kind of steel could well see Augsburg emerge as surprise European qualifiers. What does Stuttgart's DFB Cup final against Arminia Bielefeld mean for European qualification? VfB Stuttgart. Position, 11th. Points, 41, 30 games. Goals, 56 to 50, +6. Last 5 results: drew 4-4 versus Union Berlin. Lost 2-1 versus Werder Bremen. 1-4-0 versus Bochum. Lost 1-0 versus Eintracht Frankfurt. Lost 4-3 versus Bayer Leverkusen. Remaining matches: Heidenheim, H. St. Pauli, A. Augsburg, H. RB Leipzig, A. Stuttgart faced a challenging start to a campaign that kicked off without departed giants like Serhou Guirassy and Valdemar Anton. A run of 6 wins in 8 games sent Sebastian Hoeneß's men surging up the standings and back into familiar territory, but last season's runners-up have just 1 win in their last 8 games since victory in Dortmund. Key goal threat Deniz Undav has returned after injury issues but has struggled to fire. Nick Woltmade has impressed after emerging from the shadows, while fellow striker Ermedin Demirovic, who plundered a hat-trick in the 4-0 Matchday 28 win over Bochum, has helped shoulder the burden as the Swabians seek a return to Europe after this year's Champions League adventure, either via the league or by winning the DFB Cup. Wolfsburg. Position, 12th. Points, 39, 30 games. Goals, 53 to 47, +6. Last 5 results: drew 2-2 versus Mainz. Lost 3-2 versus RB Leipzig. Lost 1-0 versus Union Berlin. Lost 1-0 versus Heidenheim. Lost 1-0 versus Augsburg. Remaining 4 matches: Freiburg, H. Borussia Dortmund, A. Hoffenheim, H. Borussia Mönchengladbach, A. After a few seasons of huffing and puffing, the Wolves are looking up rather than down as they aim for their first European qualification spot since 2020-21. Ralph Hasenhüttl has masterminded the revival this term, with loan signing Mohamed Amoura bringing attacking momentum. 4 defeats in a row have damaged their challenge, but a strong end to the campaign could put them right back in contention, with only 9 points separating them from Freiburg in 5th place. How is the battle to stay in the Bundesliga?